So the World Day Against Human Trafficking was yesterday, and I am obviously late, but I believe that this is not an issue that needs to be limited to one day, and so I thought I would use my voice to speak up against trafficking in the way that I know how to. And that includes giving a little bit of background. So when I was 20, so that's 9 years ago, I worked against human trafficking in Thailand for a few months. Got trained to be able to spot trafficking and then also be able to help the girls out of it, which was a really, honestly, life-changing experience. But I didn't actually understand the atrocity of human trafficking until around a year later, actually. And a year later, I was traveling in India for my study abroad program, and me and my friend ended up going to this guide, and he took us to this concert, but it wasn't a concert. We were sat down in these seats, and when we were sat there, simultaneously we heard a few different things that were very alarming. For one of the other travelers who was with us told us that she was sexually abused by our guide just recently, but she couldn't leave. Second, a different group that was with us told us that we needed to leave now because all of the white women that were brought to this place were prostitutes, and so everyone around us was apparently thinking that we were prostitutes. And third, we found out that, so our guide left, and we realized in that moment that if he had the intentions of bringing us to this place, like these people said, to prostitute us, and we weren't super confident in his character at that point after hearing about him sexually abusing the other girl. If he had intended to do that, if he brought us to this place to do that, there would be very little we could do to stop him. Because our passports were in his car, we were in this huge crowd of people. It was, I remember in that moment thinking, sitting there and saying, okay, this could be it. Like, I could very well be trafficked, and what would I want someone to do for me? So even though I had this Thailand experience and I was trained to be able to spot stuff, I completely missed it. I thought I was just with a travel guide and everything was fine, and I completely missed the risk. So in that moment, I was like, you know what? If this ends up happening, I want for people to fight for me. I want for people to fight because they believe I'm worth fighting for, whatever it takes. That's what I wanted. And then when, obviously, we ended up getting out of it because I'm here and I'm not trafficked. And I'm very grateful. So what ended up happening was basically me and her got back with our bags, so we had our passports, and we just requested to go to a hotel instead of staying with him. And we had to kind of persist for a while, but with the people around us and witnesses, it ended up working out okay, and we got away. And so, but what I ended up thinking about after that is that a lot of women, even with using their intellect, even with using their best judgments, end up in these situations that are so emotionally and spiritually traumatic and abusive. And yet, I feel like we could be doing so much more to help them. And what do I mean by that? I mean, yes, there are some great things that are very obvious that we could do. Like, if we see a sketchy-looking massage parlor, we can call, right? There are tons of support numbers online that we can call and report them. It's incredibly important because if you notice something and you assume that someone else has called it in, they may have not. So we can use our voice to call in sketchy situations. But even more than that, and this is what's going to step on some people's toes, I know this because it would have probably stepped on mine earlier in my life, to be honest, is that if we are standing against trafficking, I believe a part of some of the biggest stuff we can do to fight against it is to work against prostitution and to work against pornography. And here's why. So I worked in Thailand against trafficking, yes, but then I ended up working against trafficking later on in life, also working at a safe house. And literally every sex trafficking victim, every single one that I've ever met was presented by her pimp as a prostitute. So when we are participating in prostitution and when we are buying people, thinking that we're doing one thing, we have no idea if they are actually trafficked because they're not going to tell you that they are trafficked. Trafficking is not just underground, being sold to people who know that it's like that. No, the way that I've seen it and most of the victims I've met were presented as prostitutes. And so we just don't know, and it's too risky. By agreeing with prostitution, we are allowing for an environment that basically makes trafficking very, very easy for people, because they just tell the girls to tell other people that they're prostitutes. And that's as easy as that. There's nothing else alarming about it. They just use coercion and manipulation and threats. And then with pornography, the same thing. A lot of the girls that are trafficked then end up put in pornography. And we can tell ourselves that the pornography we watch isn't like that, and they want to be there. And we just don't know. We don't know. There's too much linked between pornography and trafficking, where a lot of the women are forced into pornography, and yet we turn a blind eye to their personhood because we want just to satisfy ourselves. And I think when in that moment of like sitting in that place and realizing, okay, so if I am taken, when I was in India, I was like, if I am taken into trafficking and put into porn, what is that? So that means that some guy's dad can watch me later on today? It's just, we forget that these people are people, that they have family and they have their own lives. And even if they are choosing to be in pornography, this is a separate point, separate from trafficking. Even if people are choosing to be in pornography, what point do you have to get to in life to make that decision? Would that be a place that you would want your sister or your mom or your daughter to get to in their lives, that they decide that they need to be in pornography? No, none of us would want that. And so why do we turn off the personhood when we watch it? So enough's enough. That's how I feel. I believe that the spirit of lust is super powerful, and I can attest to that. So the thing is, when I'm talking about this, I'm not saying that people that watch porn and get prostitutes are evil. I don't believe they are. I just think that we've numbed ourselves, and enough is enough. I think when I realized what was going on and like really put the pieces together, I didn't want any part in that stuff anymore. And I'm so glad, because it's a poison. And so I really believe that the spirit of lust is super powerful, but it does not get to have power over us unless we give it consent to. And I think that's incredibly important to remember, because even when we feel like we need it and we need something, we don't. It's as simple as that. You don't. You don't need it. And it's putting people at risk. And when I was sitting in that place in India thinking that I want people to fight for me, it wasn't just I want people to say that they hate trafficking. I want people to say that they hate when girls are thrown into vans. Everyone hates that. Almost everyone hates that. That's not what I wanted. I wanted for people to fight for me even when they didn't get to use their own lust and greed and power. I wanted them to put me above their own selfish desires, because people matter and we don't get to just use people. So I'm pretty passionate about it, obviously, but I do believe that this is something that it takes more than just saying that we hate it. It takes actually acting in it, acting against any form of monetizing sexuality, any form of objectifying people, anything that allows for the environment for trafficking to sneak in, because ultimately traffickers won't traffic if they don't get money for it. And traffickers won't get money if people don't watch porn and people don't buy the girls. That is how they're getting money. So if we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we're doing our part to not support this, that is the biggest thing that we can do on this day, this World Day against human trafficking. It's more than just saying we hate it. Everyone hates it. But how much do we hate it? How much can we put ourselves in these women's positions and decide that they're worth our changing our habits, and they're worth encouraging others to change their habits, because we want a better, safer world that doesn't even, that actually people won't even be incentivized to steal women, because people won't pay for it, right? And I know that it sounds like, oh, this is going to take forever, so how would we ever make any ground on this? If we don't do anything, we won't. But I believe that change can happen, because a society is made up of a bunch of different people. And so if even a few people keep changing and more people keep changing the way they view it, and we keep using our voices to advocate for these women and men who are trafficked, then things will change, because people are changing. So society made out of people. If people keep changing, society will change. And we have to keep hope that there is more that we can do than just posting something about how much we hate it. We have to believe that something can be done. And a part of that is by addressing it in ourselves and stopping our own selfishness when it comes to exploitation of people. So I love everyone also, and I just want to say that if you are struggling with issues like that, you're not alone. Actually, it's super common, but the spirit of lust is a very, very ridiculous thing because it tells people that they can't be free, and it's the biggest load of crap. Anyone can be free. Just be free. Seek God and be free. It has no control over you. Get help, get accountability partners, but every time that it tells you that you need it, you actually don't. So there is freedom available, and I'm with you, and definitely not making, I don't want you to feel like there's something wrong with you, but there's a change needed. So it's time. Okay.